Oh, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you so much for tuning in, sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome. And welcome back if you have. My intention is unity and oneness and the highest levels of love light. I'm still waking up. So apologies if any of this comes out a little bit all over the place and a little wonky. It's those full moon energies that we've got going on right now. I just want to take a few breaths, and I used to do this all the time when I began doing these videos, and it would involve light language or going into the heart. And I just want to invite everybody to take a moment and take a deep breath in. And a nice letting go exhale, and just drop into the heart. And I have videos that are old now that are about getting into the heart and how to know when you're in the heart versus the head. I'll probably redo those at some point if you're interested in looking at those. Also, recognizing that it's so important for us to be in the heart, you guys. It's a lot is going on right now. I keep using the reference, everything here now all at once, which I think was a movie title, but that is what it feels like. It feels, for some of us, just chaotic. And the messages I continue to get from my guides is that it's going to continue to feel that way for a lot of people. I just did a video yesterday on why am I the only, why isn't everybody feeling this? And so I invite you to go back and watch that if that's something you feel called to watch. But ultimately, we are all on our own unique individual journey. And it's so important for us to stay consistent in our coherence. So in Heart Math, they talk about coherence. Dan Winters talks a lot about it, just being in a cohesive state of awareness. Well, I wanted to really just touch on that briefly because it doesn't mean that we are consistently in sunshine and rainbows. But it does mean that we have an inner awareness of how we're feeling moment to moment throughout the day. We're more aware, I am feeling frustration, I'm feeling anger, I'm feeling chaotic. When we acknowledge and recognize what we're feeling in that moment, that immediately shifts, from my perspective, shifts us into a different state, a different vibration or frequency. It doesn't mean that we're avoiding feeling those feelings. And it doesn't mean that we aren't supposed to be feeling those feelings. It just means we're acknowledging that those are part of our reality in that moment. Just by doing that, we're able to drop back into the body and out of the chaos for a second and find our center. And for me, finding my center, it comes from gratitude, appreciation for, wow, I recognize that. Thank you, universe. Thank you, body. Thank you, guides. Whatever works for you. And, thank you, God. Thank you, Goddess. Thank you, Mother Earth Gaia. Thank you, children. Thank you, parents. Thank you, flowers. Thank you, food. Whatever it might be. Gratitude in that moment shifts the frequency and the vibration. It doesn't mean that it goes away entirely. But when you shift the frequency and you shift the vibration, how it felt a second ago changes. Therefore, it's easier to manage. And so if we're doing that as often as we can throughout the day, we're able to manage some of the things that we're feeling with more consistency. And this is all about consistency. If we are constantly experiencing highs and lows, and we're just pulled into that tornado, which I call other people's reality, that then becomes ours because we are not aware of our own inner emotions, it's very difficult for us to find that balance and stability that is required for us to create the reality that we wish to create. So that's just the biggest message that always comes through, and it always starts with us. So I'm just going to start reminding everybody again to get back to the basics. Keep it simple. We've got a lot of disclosure coming out. We've got a lot of stories that are coming up to be witnessed, to be processed, to be revealed, to be realized, and in some cases to be analyzed. But the most important part of this is our own inner work, our own inner analyzation. It's a play on words. And inner I see. So while all this other stuff is coming up all around us, we are being really called to see how consistent we can be in our coherence. Am I reacting? Am I overreacting? Am I underreacting? Am I reacting to this story? Or am I holding a space in which I recognize it's stirring up emotions in me? I'm feeling those emotions and I'm integrating those emotions. I'm going back into my heart and I'm allowing myself the opportunity to let it go or to feel it and process it in the way that I need to, that isn't going to trigger someone else. Because this does have a ripple effect. Everything that we do has a ripple effect. And how we do things is each of us is an individual, unique experience that we are each here to experience. So not taking that away from somebody else is always important also. And when we go into our heart, we're in a place of coherence, there is no need to do that. There's no feeling of the need to be right or the need to be heard. It just feels more peaceful. And again, this is practice. It isn't necessarily going to always be sunshine and rainbows. It is about the experience. Sometimes we might react, we might not be in our hearts, we might be angry about what we're witnessing, feeling, experiencing, and we might need to speak our truth and speak up about it. Yet, if we can do that from a place of coherence, which is more of a balanced frequency, the words that we choose, the energy that we choose to project, the language that we use that has that ripple effect, has a different impact, cone, zone, and experience that allows us to express ourselves from a more mature, highly conductive, energetic frequency, rather than a discordant, inharmonious frequency. And this is what it's all about. So that's why it's so important for us to just drop into the heart, feel that breath move through the body, take a few seconds before we respond to somebody else's reaction to some of the things that we're witnessing. Take a few breaths in, take a few breaths out, drop into the heart. Feel gratitude for whatever it is that allows us to shift our frequency in that moment. And that doesn't mean pushing away the emotions. When I say shift our frequency, it doesn't mean we go from anger to happiness and joy. It just means, okay, I'm processing this. Maybe I'll come back to that in a moment. Maybe I can process this, but still be mature about this and speak from my heart in such a way that it gives me an ability to remain analytical, intellectual, but through the intelligence of the heart. Because for a long time, we've been taught that analyzing and intelligence and logic are the way in which we are supposed to move forward and objectively, et cetera, but that isn't, it's missing a big piece of the puzzle. So we've been working with pieces and not the whole pie. Play on words. Okay, so now that we've dropped into the heart, I'm just gonna go into a little flow from my guides. Well, one other thing, tomorrow I'm posting a video. It's kind of a follow-up to the video that I did called Why Am I Not Feeling, or Why Isn't Everybody Feeling This? Am I the only one feeling this? The guides kind of said in that channel, just quit looking for answers outside of ourselves. And I think I said in the video something along the lines of stop looking, start looking inside, stop looking out there. But I don't know if I was very clear on that. So I really wanted to kind of give that precursor that whenever the guides are saying, don't keep looking for reasons or looking for answers or looking for why this happened or what's next. It was more of a reference to drop in. What's next for me? What's next in my reality? What can I do to feel more complete and blissful and joyful and engaging with Mother Nature? And those are the things that allow us, give us the ability to then see what's next energetically versus see what's next in a story that may or may not change based on the vibration or frequency that we're holding because we're creating that future. So, okay. So this is meant to be felt, not necessarily understood. I'm just going to kind of drop in and see what comes through. So as we make these choices, we align ourselves with choice points. We start to open to a plethora of energies that are available to us now that are seemingly unavailable when we give ourselves depleted choices or when we feel depleted when we make these choices. It gives us the ability to come back into completion and feel as if we are not incomplete. And this is all a play on words. And this is a reference back to the puzzle pieces that I was seeing earlier. Many of us are walking around with glass half full mentality because that is the choice that we feel we have been given. Or better spoken, it is what we see our choice is that we have been given. We feel as if that is all we have available to us. And yet I'm being shown a person standing inside of a glass, seeing that half full. But once they step outside of the glass, they realize that they're the ones that are pouring, there's so much more available. And this is so symbolic for right now, many people are deconstructing the construct that we have been poured into. That energy has been poured into, that has been created before our very eyes for us to stay molded into, to feel as if we cannot move into a higher mold, if you will. And this has grown old, stale, and moldy. I've done another video on this. I'm seeing kind of a conjunction here. For many of us are beyond the glass half full mentality, yet we still feel the constraints of that particular reality. For it is binding in many ways, and we have bound ourselves to it in the ways in which we understand how our reality works, or think we understand, and in the ways that we work within the confines of that reality or construct. And so as we begin to dissolve those false barriers, we begin to create a new light, one might say. We begin to shine a light on certain parts of our reality that have been blocked from us before, whether intentional or unintentional. We must move past this concept of us versus them. For we are discovering there has been much that has been hidden from us. And yet this is something that we have agreed to from one particular perspective in this construct in order to help us feel less constructive, in order for us to feel protected and safe. We have been gifted with the, I'm seeing mortality. So I'm just being shown, we've basically signed a contract saying, okay, I'm giving you this contract and show me what I want to see. But instead, they have shown us what they want us to see. And because we don't see beyond this glass half full, we think that's it. And so many of us feel as if we have been given less, handed less, yet we are looking at this. I'm seeing a person with one hand tied behind their back. And I'm seeing the lion from put 'em up, put 'em up. So this is a time where great courage is needed in order to break through the barriers of lack, break through the barriers of I'm being shown there's a ripple of anger happening when people start to realize what is really available to us. When people start to realize how our reality has been constructed and how we've been, I just keep seeing the Truman Show. That's what I keep being shown. And so we are being called to go back into the heart, into the cup that runneth over, for we have not been given a glass half empty or a glass half full. It is truly full into the brim, a cup that runneth over. When we seek the energy from within, that is restoring our original net worth. For as we restore our individual uniqueness and light, we become part of a deeper connection. We recognize we are already part of this deeper connection. I'm seeing synapses firing in the brain. All of a sudden, it lights up the entire architecture. So we can see past what has been reflected back to us before. So I'm being shown a house of mirrors, and we've shown a light. It's reflected back to us, and it's created a hologram template. And the hologram template structure is what we've been watching. We've been seeing it because we've been taught from birth. This is how you look at it. This is how you feel around it, in it, through it. This is how you add these numbers up. This is how you see this color. This is what it represents, so on and so forth. It's hard to understand entirely, but this is what I'm being shown. This has created a pattern and a template structure within which we operate from. This template or architectural blueprint of our reality is a massive illusion, and we are all under this illusion from one perspective, or held within this particular illusion of reality within a time structure. I'm hearing cortex, play on words. Ooh, that's a play on words between quartz, cortex in the brain, and something else that I will go back and look up later. Held within this time structure, cortex, and blueprint of reality is another structure that is pouring out and that is essentially dissolving the reality that we have been poured within, that we are bored with. So recognizing that this particular template no longer fits the bill. Our value or our system, our value exchange, how we exchange value, our own value and self-worth has increased for how and what we value. Okay, how we value what we value, and what we value and how we view it has shifted. That's all back to perspective. Once you change your perspective, once you get into heart coherence, it changes everything that we are creating, because we no longer wish to create in the same way, because we don't value it anymore. This becomes more valuable to us. Our energy becomes more valuable to us. Therefore, where we project our energy and how we spend our energy is intrinsically connected to our value system. This has to do with our economic, political, social. So we start to see this ripple effect, or also from another perspective, the echo, because we've already created this. So we're starting to see some things dissolve very quickly that we think would take a very long time, because we've shifted actually a while ago, many of us, but it took time because of our, I'm seeing that cortex again. So there's something about the quartz and the clock and the mechanisms of a clock in time, and something about the cerebral cortex in the brain, and I'm hearing subcortex of the micronism, play on words, with the relationship with the macro. It's fine. So as we play with this new architecture that is being created before our very eyes, we begin to recognize that our relationship with matter also shifts. And this is also a play on words. What matters to us, how we view matter, platonic solids and matter that makes up reality, how we view what matters to us and the matters of the heart become more important to us. And we begin to interlace, interlock, and interweave with those pieces, for it is more complete. We begin to complete the pieces that were missing before. And as we weave together through this net worth, we begin to understand that we are co-creating as woman, man, being of light waves and energy frequency sound conductors. We create a new sound. We create a new frequency band that is impenetrable and I'm seeing so much right now, like, well, I'm hearing unknockable. So right now we've got a lot of knocking going on. I recorded this the other day. I record so much that I don't post because I've yet to start a blog 4 years later. Maybe my assistant can do that for me. I'm starting to learn how to delegate. But essentially, I was shown knocking. Like there's a lot of knocking going on. I was hearing knock, knock on heaven's door, knocking on heaven's door, not keep on knocking, but you can't come in, knocking down the old. I was seeing knock, knock need, like people are fearful. So knock, knock, who's there? I don't know. Who is there? Is it me? Who am I? So I like to play with these word flows because basically we're creating a new way of communication too. And this communication is a channel or a network that essentially branches out in the organic format that binds with organic architecture. And the organic architecture is then lit up. I'm seeing a light. So we were being guided in one direction into the inorganic and artificial. And while we can still see that, and while we are still interacting with it, we start to see the light over here because our synapses are firing as a collective more predominantly. That becomes our predominant focus because now we're using our heart-centered intelligence to guide us in that direction. We begin to make choices and we begin to see opportunities that were not lit up before, even though they've been there the whole time from one perspective. It begins to light up the light corridor, whereas before the door felt closed or inaccessible is now wide open. In fact, there is no door. It is an open expanse of neuro networks or neurological pathways or I'm hearing neurosynapses, neuropsinus that allow us to create this network with no confinement. So I'm hearing into the great wide open. And this feels lofty. This feels too high. Sometimes this feels undoable because we've been trained or our circuitry has been plugged into a particular type of frequency, conductivity, reality, blueprint, time, relationship with time, and interaction with an artificial mainframe, we could say, that was being operated from an organic technology. So the organic technology template was inserted into a non-organic template from one perspective, and there were many different layers that were activated within these particular components, structures, if you wish to call it that. We could say around the human body. I'm seeing a Faraday cage, basically, like around the human body. And this has been broken from one perspective. We've broken the mold. Now we are looking at this going, now what? So I'm seeing a lot of people broke the mold. It's like the Truman Show. Again, you guys have to, it's such a good movie. But you get out and you're like, well, now what? Everything is different. Everything that I thought was the way that it was no longer feels like it is, because it isn't, because now the doors have been blown off. So it's like we got pulled into all this new expansive reality. And it's like kids learning, and this is kind of going to sound, have you guys ever watched videos where animals are released from captivity and they touch grass for the first time? Oh, I get emotional just thinking about it. Note to self, no buying products that are tested on animals. And I will talk about, I want to do a video about that too, really checking our labels and looking at how sustainable we are. This is something that's been coming up for me a lot lately, but not just about sustainability, how we are interacting with our products. This is also going to be shifting, and it already has. But when an animal is released from captivity, everything is big and it can be afraid at first, nervous, like, what is this? And that's kind of what I'm seeing a lot of humans feeling like, and it can feel, but then it feels free. But for some people, it can feel too free because we're used to working within a certain architecture, within a certain mold. You know, if you go from a small apartment to a big house, you feel like, wow, I have all these rooms I can decorate. What do I do? So I'm just kind of sharing that that's what I'm seeing humans feeling like. So it's going to take, again, I hear the echo. It's going to take some time for certain individuals to realize this. And for those of us who already know, that are already creating, it's important for us to create as unified as we can, not only with our bigger picture of heart-centered, I'm hearing interior, play on words, but also our own, from our individual unique ability to hold that frequency. So just because our neighbor isn't, doesn't mean that we get pulled into they're creating something. We are being called, again, responsible action, compassionate action, taking action from or responding from heart-centered intelligence that allows us to make better choices about what we are co-creating individually, which then has a ripple effect on what we co-create collectively. So that's a lot. I'm just going to end on that note and just send out a lot of gratitude for everyone tuning in. Thank you so much for sharing these videos and interacting with one another and just being on this journey together. I was sharing with someone the other day, even though there's so much going on that's chaotic, and I've got things going on in my life too, guys, that are not necessarily what I had hoped to create. And it happens, it comes up. We have health issues that we deal with. We have family that are dealing with traumatic issues, and so on and so forth. And this is something that we all have individually. So underneath it all, though, I still feel this undercurrent that is actually the true organic current and frequency of love. And that is where I stay plugged into as often as I can and recognize I'm never disconnected from it. And the more I can recognize that, the easier it is for me to navigate the difficulties that are showing up for me in my life now that may be an echo from past choices I've made, or potentially choices that other people in my life are making or have made that are requiring them to work through and navigate through some things right now as well. And that may be lessons, it may be the experience, it may be that I also, because I'm also experiencing it with them. So it's a lot, but there is that undercurrent that I call the sound behind the sound. It is an actual harmonic that can be felt and tuned into. That is the heart center or the fabric of source energy. True organic source energy. So, in love and light, guys. Namaste.